What's up, kiddies? Morton here. Okay, so you're going to be designing a logo, and the first thing you need to do is to actually do some pencil work. So this is the Muskoka Kids Triathlon, or Muskoka Kids Tri, like that. But it's a triathlon. So the first thing we have to do is we have to really take a look at what it is that we're selling. So the first thing we do is we have to take a look at words. We were talking about how words make symbols. So the first thing you want to do is you want to write down all of the words. I'm giving you a sheet for this. You're going to write down all of the words that you can think of that mean something to you when you hear the words Muskoka Kids Triathlon. So what are the images that come to mind? What are the things you're going to work on? Is you're going to put in the words down on paper that come to mind. So when you say Muskoka, what do you think? Trees, water, the bridge, rocks, group of seven, stuff like that. You're going to actually write these things down, everything that comes to mind when you think Muskoka. Then you've got kids. So you've got young, youth, happy, small, children, all these kind of things that come to mind when you think of kids. And then you've got triathlon. So you've got obviously biking, swimming, running. And that's the order in which triathlons happen: biking, swimming, running. So that's also important to remember when you're putting your images together, to put them in an order that makes sense in terms of the way in which the triathlon is done. So you're going to put down other words: bicycles, bathing suits, water, roads, running shoes. Also think about things like the medals, the trophies, the crossing the finish line, breaking the tape, being the first winner, helping, sports, enthusiasm, hot, drinking, running, anything that comes to mind when you think of a race situation. Write those down. Pendants. I mean, I'm giving you half of them as it is, but write everything that comes to mind. The next step, of course, is to take all of those words and draw little pictures for them. And again, this is something you're doing on paper. Just little sketches or doodles or something that make sense to you, that are pictures that come to mind when you hear those words that you've just written down. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to combine. So if you combine a couple of the pictures together, maybe they morph, like we did with Pathfinder, into a new object. So try to combine them together. If the example would be if it was Christmas that you were trying to sell, and you would go, the words would be like Christmas tree and presents. Then the pictures you would draw would be a sketch of a Christmas tree and a present. Then you would combine those together to perhaps put the Christmas tree under the Christmas tree over the present, or vice versa. Maybe you can work the presents into the limbs of the Christmas tree. There's all sorts of combinations you can do there, so you have to combine those together. And then the last thing to do is to add the words back in. So Muskoka Kids Triathlon has to go together. The next thing I'd like you guys to do is to go to a website called www.dafont.com. Now, dafont.com gives you a wide selection of fonts that you might want to use, and you can go through that and you can actually download those to your M drive. So start a folder on your M drive for fonts, download those fonts and put them in there for usage. We will have them installed for you in the next couple of days so that you can start using them in your words as you go along. Next thing on our list is, well, I hate to call it this, but stealing graphics. So there's all sorts of elements that you can find out on the internet for visual images. You can either do your own sketches and then scan them in and bring them into Illustrator and trace them, or you can find them online. The key element here is to find a style that you're going to use through all of your different illustrations, so you don't have 3 different illustrations. Remember, we were talking about how all of the logos for the Olympics, for example, are exactly the same from each each event to different events, and they all kind of have a style. You're looking for a particular style that's carry through. So here are two different types of styles. I've simply snagged these pictures off the internet. Here's one that's already a graphic of a bike, and here's an actual picture of a bike. So if I'm going to use these in my combination of things, I can actually grab them off the internet, drag them into Illustrator directly, usually straight from the window, or to either go File, Place, and then get them from your collection of downloaded files. Once I select them with the black arrow, you'll notice that along the top it turns into Live Trace. It gives you these sort of conditions you can do on it. I'm going to hit Live Trace. So it's going to start to turn this into a real graphic. The threshold is something you can look at. If you adjust the threshold down or up, you'll notice how it affects that particular graphic. So if I take this way down on the threshold, click off of it so it'll do its job, you'll notice that it has eliminated a lot of the extra amount of detail that's there. If I increase that and then click off of it to see the effects, you'll notice that it has beefed it up. So the threshold affects the amount of colors that are included in that. Once I have this, if I go Control Y to look at outline, you'll notice I don't have any control over lines yet. And we'll go back to preview. Now once you expand this, you'll notice that when I go back to outline, I now have the outlines. And I can get rid of this box on the outside like that. Now the tricky part of this is that I actually have two copies of this particular bike on top of itself. If I click anywhere inside the graphic itself with the white arrow, I will get all of the pieces of that particular first layer. You'll notice if I offset it, there's one underneath. So I would normally go in with the white arrow and I would click and then I would be able to move that by simply clicking on any area with the white arrow and then deleting. You'll notice that it's still there. Click on that one, delete that one. There's still another copy there. Click on that one, delete that one. Again, still copy there. One here. And one more here. Still there. Now the difference is this one copy underneath happens to be white fill with no stroke. So all I have to do now is I can say give it a color. So the next problem here is that some of this has lost its compounded path. So if I were to select this and this part on the outside, we can now go to our Pathfinder menu, which we just learned about, and I can minus front, which is going to give me a compound path again for that particular section in the middle. It gets a little confusing, and I hope you can muddle your way through it. The other way we can do it is if we have an illustration like this, and we go to Live Trace. We now have a black and white. We could also go for different colors from the default menu. But if we're going to keep it default, which is black and white, again, I'm going to play with the threshold. The less the number, the less detail. The higher the number, the more detail that you keep on the illustration. If you go up too high, you might start to fill in some areas that you don't want to. When you're done playing with that threshold, getting it just where you want, you can hit the expand again, and voila, you have turned yourself a brand new illustration that you can then select certain elements of and delete them if necessary. So that's your first step for selecting and getting rid of, boom, like that. Getting rid of different elements that you need and keeping the stuff that you need to start building your graphics together. So the object of the game, people, is to start working on your Kids Triathlon logo, bring in images from the web that you can use, go to dafont.com and collect fonts that you can use for your piece, and basically work with pen and pencil to figure out exactly what kind of graphics, and to help yourself be inspired by those words that are going to turn into images. Chill out.